Chapter 53. The Wheel Turns. When they woke at dawn, the full devastation of the Green Man's realm was revealed. The ground was covered in fallen leaves almost knee-deep, and all the flowers were gone except for around the edges of the clearing and a ring around the oak tree. The oak itself had lost half its leaves, as if some remnant of the Green Man tried to hold on. The air was turning sticky with heat. The birds and butterflies were gone. The group was silent as they prepared to leave, and Ran felt bitter that it shouldn't be like this when they'd won. Egwene lamented that the Green Man hadn't found his other place, as she mounted Bella. A makeshift litter was slung between the mare and Aldiab to carry Moraine, with Nynaeve holding the white mare's reins to watch over her patient. The wisdom dropped her eyes whenever Lan looked at her, but he never spoke. Loyal stood staring at the oak and declared,
"It is not right that Tree Brother should fall to the Blight. Not right."
He handed his reins to Rand and walked over to the tree, and Moraine forestalled Lan's objections to the delay. Loyal knelt and stretched out his arms as he lifted his face to the sky. He began to sing, and Rand couldn't say if it was words or just pure song. It seemed as if the earth sang along with the Ogier's rumbling voice, and the birds began to sing. Butterflies flew and the breeze stirred again. In only a few minutes, Loyal lowered his arms in silence, and the leaves on the oak seemed greener and stronger, along with the flowers. He mopped sweat from his head as he said he'd never sung so hard before. He could not have done it if something of Tree Brother was not still here. His tree songs just didn't have that power. This little space will not succumb to the Blight and take Tree Brother. Lan told him he's a good man, and Loyal grinned, saying he would take it as a compliment, though he doubts what Elder Hammond would say. They rode in single file, Mat behind the warder with his bow and Perrin at the rear, axe ready. They crested a hill and found themselves in the Blight in the blink of an eye. Ran looked back and saw no sign of the Green Man's garden, only the Blight stretching on. He half expected they would have to fight their way back through, but not a single tree trembled, and none of the creatures were seen. When they passed the lakes, Lan avoided his gaze, but to Rand the seven towers seemed taller, and he had a brief image of them gleaming in the sun, flying the golden crane banners. Before sunset they set up camp, and Moraine had Nynaeve and Egwene help her set the wards. Nynaeve had hesitated when the Aes Sedai first whispered to her, but joined the other two in closing her eyes. When Rand saw the other two boys was surprised. He wasn't. Every woman is an Aes Sedai lately. Then mirthlessly he remembered so was he. Perrin asked why the Blight felt so different, and Moraine explained that they dealt a mighty blow to the Dark One. The shadow will take a while to recover. Mat demanded how. What did they do? Moraine ignored the question and instructed them to sleep. They're not out of the Blight yet. The next morning nothing had changed to Rand's eyes, and they rode on. The trees became straighter, and the stifling heat lessened. Rotting leaves gave way to just disease. The forest began to show new healthy regrowth, and wild flowers dotted the ground as if the Green Man had walked amongst them. It was as if spring, held back by the overlong winter, was rushing in to make up where it could. They all stared in awe as Moraine murmured that it was a mighty blow they dealt. The soldiers came out of the watchtowers to greet them, laughing in stunned happiness, as if they couldn't believe the new growth. They told the group that the light had conquered the shadow. There was a great victory at Tarwin'S Gap. The light blessed them again. Lan shouted back that King Eza is strong in the light. The watchman wanted to tend to Moraine, or at least send an escort with them, but she declined it all. Even flat on her back on a litter, the Aes Sedai still had a commanding presence. They bowed to her wishes with more laughter as the group rode off. They reached Valdara late in the afternoon, finding it in celebration, bells ringing. Rand doubted there wasn't a bell ringing in the entire city. The citizens had not yet returned, but the soldiers had recently returned from the Gap, and their joy was enough to fill the streets. They cried out about their victory. A miracle occurred at the Gap, and the Age of Legends had returned. An old soldier hung a garland of flowers around Rand's neck as he laughed about the light blessing them with spring again. A circle of soldiers escorted them to the fortress, clearing a path through the celebration. Ingtar was the first person Rand saw that wasn't smiling. Sourly he told Lan that they were too late by an hour to join the battle. He begged forgiveness for grief making him forget his duties, then welcomed them properly. He was glad to see them return from the Blight safely, and said he would summon a healer to Moraine's chambers. The Aes Sedai insisted he take them straight to Lord Agamar, not allowing Ingtar to protest. The Lord was in his study and wore a frown that deepened when he saw Moraine on her litter, carried by liveried servants. The women had fussed about bringing her to the Lord without even freshening up or seeing a healer. The Aes Sedai still carried the pouch with the broken seal, and a servant had been given strict instructions to carry her saddlebag that contained the dragon's banner to her chambers. Agamar cursed and asked if Moraine was injured, then reprimanded Ingtar for not taking her to the chambers to see a healer. Moraine told him to be still. Ingtar was following her orders. She is not as frail as everyone seems to think. She allowed the women to help her to a chair, and then asked to speak privately with the Lord. He nodded and dismissed the servants, then noticed the golden chest that Loyal carried. Moraine said that they heard of the victory at Tarwin'S Gap, and Agamar frowned again. He said,
Yes, Aes Sedai, and no. The half-man and their Trollocs were destroyed to the last, but we barely fought. A miracle, my men call it. The earth swallowed them, and the mountains buried them. Only a few Drakkar were left, too frightened to do else but fly north as fast as they could.
Moraine said it did sound like a miracle, especially with the return of spring as well. Agamar shook his head and told her,
A miracle? But my men say many things about what happened in the Gap. That the light took on flesh and fought for us. That the Creator walked in the Gap to strike at the shadow. But I saw a man, and what he did cannot be, must not be.
The Aes Sedai told him that the wheel weaves as the wheel wills, then asked if Padan Fain was still secure. She must speak with him once she's rested. Agamar confirmed he's still confined, whining and trying to command his guards. Then he asked what became of them in the Blight. Did they find the Green Man? He sees his hand in the spring. Flatly she told the Lord that they found the Green Man, but he is dead, and the Eye of the World is gone. There will be no more young men questing for it to seek glory. Agamar shook his head in confusion, then objected that the Green Man cannot be dead. Does that mean they were defeated? It makes no sense with the spring being returned. Moraine explained that they won. The land being freed from the winter is the proof. Yet she fears the last battle has yet to be fought. Rand stirred at this, but she stilled him with a look. The Blight still stands, and the forges of Thakandar still work below Shaiol Ghul. There are many half-men yet, and countless Trollocs. Never think the need for watchfulness in the borderlands is gone. Stiffly, the Lord told her he didn't think it had, and Moraine asked Loyal to bring the chest over. She opened it and revealed the horn as she told Agamar it's the horn of Valia. Agamar gasped and looked as if he would kneel, then told Moraine that with the horn it does not matter how many Shadowspawn remain. With the heroes of old returned, they can march on the blasted lands to level Shaiol Ghul. Moraine shouted no, startling the Lord. I did not show it to you to taunt you, but so you will know that in whatever battles are yet to come, our might will be as great as that of the Shadow. Its place is not here. The horn must be carried to Ilion. It is there, if fresh battles threaten, that it must rally the forces of the light. I will ask for an escort of your best men to see it reaches Ilion safely. There are still Dark Friends as well as Shadowspawn, and the heroes will return for whoever sounds the horn. Agamar agreed, but when she closed the chest he looked like a man being denied his last glimpse of the light. 7 days later the bells still rang in Fal Dara. The people had returned and added to the celebrations. Rand stood at a balcony overlooking Agamar's private gardens, but barely noticed they were green and flowering. Despite the fact that Shienar's spring was still chilly, he glistened with sweat on his bare chest as he swung the heron-marked blade, each move precise yet distant as he floated in the void. He wondered how much joy would remain if the people knew of the banner that Moraine kept hidden. Lan watched him critically, leaning against the railing, arms crossed. He told Rand he was doing well, but warned against pushing too hard. He can't become a blade master in only a few weeks. The void vanished like a prickle bubble, as Rand told him he doesn't care about being a blade master. Lan told him that a heron-marked blade is a blade master's weapon. Rand explained he only wants his father to be proud of him, and to himself admitted he just wants Tam to be his father. He slammed the sword into its scabbard as he added he doesn't have a few weeks. Lan asked if he changed his mind, and Rand quipped, would he? He asked Lan if he or Moraine will try to stop him. Lan answered,
You can do as you will, sheepherder, or as the pattern weaves for you. I will leave you now.
Rand turned to watch the warder leave and found Egwene standing there. She asked what he'd changed his mind over. As he snatched up his shirt he told her he is leaving, and when she asked where he said he doesn't know. He was trying not to look at her but failing. She was dressed in a Shianaran dress and had wild roses in her hair. Egwene said she doubts Moraine will let him just go off after what he did. Anyway, he deserves a reward. Rand told her,
Moraine doesn't know if I'm alive. I have done what she wanted and that's an end to it. She doesn't even speak to me when I go to her. Not that I've tried to stay close to her, but she's avoided me. She won't care if I go. I don't care if she does.
Egwene said that Moraine is still recovering, then hesitated before asking, I have to go to Tar Valon for my training. Nynaeve is coming too, and Mat still needs to be healed of whatever binds him to that dagger. Perrin wants to see Tar Valon before he goes wherever. You could come with us. Harshly he asked,
I wait for some Aes Sedai besides Moraine to find out what I am and gentle me. Is that what you want?
She answered no immediately, which he felt immensely grateful for. She told him that if he doesn't touch Sidene and try to channel, he'll be safe. Rand assured her that he won't touch it again, even if he has to cut his hands off. To himself, though, he wondered if he could stop. What if it's out of his control? He hadn't tried to channel when he was at the Eye. Egwene asked if he would go home. His father must be dying to see him. Even Mat's father must want to see his son by now. She'll be visiting Emond's Field next year. He rubbed the heron on the sword hilt as he thought about Tam and home, how he wished he could. He told her no, as he thought about meeting somewhere without people he could hurt, and lamented why Egwene had to be Aes Sedai. He put his arms around her as he told her he can never go home. Within Agarmar's private garden, under a thick bower of blossoms, Moraine sat in her bedchair. The fragments of the seal lay in her lap, and the gem she wore at her forehead shone a faint blue glow. She smiled to herself. The gem itself held no power, but it aided her use of the One Power. As a girl in the royal palace of Carrion, she'd learnt to use it to listen on other people's conversations, when they thought themselves too far to be overheard. She whispered, "The prophecies will be fulfilled. The dragon is reborn."
Thanks for listening. Please like, share and subscribe and help get a new channel off the ground. Thank you.